The Washington Commanders season is over after they weren't able to overcome 4 turnovers. They lose in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles, 55-23. We've got your instant reaction right here on Ref the District.
Yeah, it's Ref the District. Come on now and join us.
Let's go.
Welcome to Ref the District instant reaction after the NFC Championship game. I'm Nathan. That's the Stoner, and that's Trev. And we've got already a bunch of people in the chat already. We appreciate everybody being here. If you're jumping in, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you share it with other people so that way our misery is combined after our Washington Commanders season ends in a sad, sad blowout, as J.S. Wyman here points out. It was 55-23, the Eagles putting up 21 points in the fourth quarter to really put this one away. Washington 4 turnovers. Jaden Daniels' special season finishes with 29 of 48, 255 yards, a touchdown, a late interception, 6 carries, 48 yards, and 1 amazing rushing touchdown for him as well on the ground. Washington came to this game 6-point underdogs, and they just got the doors blown off on them. Of course, you could have bet during the game if you would have head over to Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source of online betting in 2025. First time better or season better, it's Bet Online who can be your ultimate game day companion. They have the largest selection of odds on everything: football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC. Bet Online is the number one sports betting source for the new year. Touchdowns, three-pointers, hat tricks. Bet Online has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. Bet Online, the game starts here. Now that I got the ad read out of the way, and of course we encourage you to bet responsibly, let's get to this breakdown here. I'm going to start with Trev on this one. What happened? Why of all the games this season did Washington play its worst game in the one that mattered the most?
I think this is what happens when you have a 30% or higher roster turnover. You have a pretty much 75% front office haul and coaching staff haul or turnover. And you've won 6 or 7 games in the last minute or fourth quarter. Basically, one coming off of luck being a Hail Mary, and the other 2 just having a clutch quarterback. This is what happens. And what I'm getting to is the continuity is the most important thing for a brand new team, and this game is the reason why. Philly's been here before. Everybody except for Saquon's been here before. So this was nothing new to them. Yeah, we split the series this year with them, but this game was the most telling game of all season, that we have just a bunch of guys on the team, and we're just trying to play football and win games. And we just happen to keep winning games this year because of Jaden Daniels, and the mixture of those guys stepped up every week, whether it was Eckler or Ertz or B-Rob or McNichols or Chris Rodriguez or Noah Brown when healthy, on the offensive side of the ball. So, and then defense, you got either Sanders still or Noah Igbigbe had a better first half of the season than second half of the season. And then BSJ gets benched, and we get Marshawn Lattimore in and out with injury. So it's like, this is what happens.
You know what it sounds like to me, Trev? Sounds like you kind of think that this team was a little bit fraudulent, that they really shouldn't have been here in the first place.
I don't think we were fraudulent. I just think that nobody expected us to get here, but
you don't beat Detroit the way that you beat Detroit last week and be a fraud.
Okay, well, he's just saying that, we're average here and we're average there and we're average there.
Yeah, if Philly loses
this game
55-23, that's a fraudulent team. But we're not. We're just literally.
I don't think we're fraudulent, Trev. I was just kind of poking you a little bit, but I think this team played way, way, way over their head. I don't think they are NFC Championship caliber type team.
Right?
Going into this game, you could have had
I
an
don't
argument
know,
that they
man.
were. After this game, I understand where your sentiment lies.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk about next season because I really don't. I'm sharing some of the comments from our viewers that are saying, hey, it's okay. It's going to be, next season's going to be great. I'm only going to share them because I don't share that sentiment right now. I think this game sucked. I hate it. I'm mad. I'm sad. I wanted Washington to win, and Washington fumbled away. Literally fumbled it away. Jaden Trev talked about having a special season, and we won so many games off of the back of his play. We did not lose this game because of Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels did not become the first rookie to start in the Super Bowl as a quarterback, not because he coughed up the ball, which is what happened these 6 other times. If you looked at all those championship games, the rookie quarterbacks just threw up over themselves. The moment was not too big for Jaden Daniels, but the moment ended up being too big for the Washington Commanders as a whole. 3 fumbles that led to touchdowns for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was shared early. I think JG there, give him some credit for this. The difference between the game before, 5 turnovers, Jaden Daniels still played magical and got us the victory against the Eagles. This time, unable to come over the 4 turnovers. Really, it was 3. The one at the end was the interception. The game was probably already out of hand at that point. So that one you could count or not count, depending on how you want. But why Stoner? After this team has elevated its play to match its young QB, were they not able to elevate their game? And we're not talking like these are a bunch of other rookies who failed. Okay. De'Ami Brown, I understand he hasn't really been that great, most of his career, but he's had a fantastic, postseason. But then you have Austin Eckler, who is a seasoned vet, a well-known player, a guy who's been very good. And you guys told me at the beginning of the season, a stud. He fumbles the ball, and then McNichols, journeyman running back off of a kickoff return. Which, by the way, I'll get to the special teams aspect here in a little bit. But sort of why were they not able to elevate their play today to match the QB and the coaching? Because I don't necessarily think that those were problems today.
Well, essentially, it comes down to you have a much more talented team on the other side. We all knew that their talent was far better than Washington's talent. This season has been all about Jaden Daniels covering up the warts and the problems of this Washington team by being Superman. He's been Superman all year. And at some point, that's going to catch up with you. Let's be honest. We were all surprised it didn't catch up with him last week against Detroit. Well, that's where we all thought this whole thing was going to come to an end. But because of his amazing play and his ability to put the team on his back and his ability to cover those warts, that lack of talent throughout the roster, that's how they were able to get by Detroit. But then when you get to a Philadelphia team, a well-coached team, a pretty well-disciplined team, an extremely talented team, especially in the trenches, Superman couldn't continue to put the cape on, and so they got exposed for what Washington is. You wish it wouldn't have been so bad, a 55-23 type game. You wish it wasn't that bad, but a loss is a loss. You lose like that, or you lose 7-6, it's going to suck, right? But you just got outclassed. Philadelphia is a damn good team. We all know that. We have to give credit where the credit is due. Jalen Hurts played better than he has almost all year. He was fantastic. Jalen Hurts was. His knee didn't seem to bother him, and that was a big difference. The stars starred when they have to. Barkley, A.J. Brown, defensively, they were doing it. So you just got outclassed. And finally, Superman couldn't put the cape on this last time. You got exposed, going home into a very promising offseason.
Yeah, they got exposed. I don't want to say Jaden Daniels got exposed. It sounded like
no.
He got
Washington's
exposed.
roster got exposed.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
he was fine.
It sounded like he said he there, and so I just wanted to clarify because it was like, again, Jaden Daniels just wasn't really given the chance, which is probably a bit of a misnomer because when you're looking at some of these other stats, Washington actually was only behind time of possession by 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, it was even.
It was fairly even there. Washington still put up 350 yards. They still had 22 first downs. They actually had more plays than the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
The problem was it was seven yards per play for the Eagles, 4.5 yards for Washington. But it just felt like every time Washington was going to get something going, something just didn't work out for them. A fumble on the ball, or an issue, where they just couldn't keep things going the way that they wanted to. So it's unfortunate again that this came down to it. This was the season, and people weren't ready for it. The fumble on the second drive, the fumble on the after you get a touchdown to make it 14-12. You give up a touchdown, it's 20-12, and you have a chance still to drive, and then you fumble the ball on the return to make it, and then they get a touchdown, 27-12. Right? You get a field goal at the end of the half, but at this point you're down 12. They're going to get the ball, but then you get a 3-and-out. You're like, yeah. And then they get a 3-and-out, and you're like, okay, maybe not. And then they score a touchdown in 4 plays, less than 2 minutes to go up 34-15. That's rough. Yeah. I kept with it. Trev, you were jumping ship early on me.
That's what Trev does.
I told you keep with it, but it was that third drive. Washington scores the touchdown, 34-23. They get the punt, but then they fumbled the ball away, and
while driving, they were down
plays, in 30 yards. Yeah, and that was probably the end, right? The 41-23. Then you start to look at it like maybe things aren't going to work out. You turn over on downs, another touchdown. That's when the interception happened. Like, it just wasn't Washington's day. Let's kind of go through this like we normally do, our offense and the defense. The defense is going to be trash. Just to let you know, we're going to get there, but you don't have to be trash. You can go ahead and hit that like button for us. Make sure that if you're here, let us know. I've got a few starred things already here when it comes to this, as far as the things that are going on. First, let's talk about the offense. It had 3 turnovers on offense, one being a late interception. Stoner, outside of that, there was a couple long drives and the ball kept moving. I mentioned 18 or 22 first down, 18 of those coming in the passing attack.
Yeah.
Now, Jaden Daniels did drop back 48 times, and the team only ran the ball 25 times.
Yeah.
You are usually really big on the balance of the offense. How did you feel about the offense today?
Well, I thought the offense was actually pretty good. You can't complain too much about it. Let's just take the turnovers out for a second. Let's just talk about the execution of the offense. The execution of the offense was fine. They were getting stuffed running the ball early, but they figured something out there, and they started getting some nice runs. Jaden Daniels was doing Jaden Daniels things. He was running all over the place. He was throwing dots all over the field. They were doing fine. But you give up a fumble like De'Ami Brown did on your own end of the field, 7 points for them. Then you give up another fumble when you're driving to try and cut it to a 1-score game. It's 34-23, and you're driving in the second half. And then you give up a fumble by Eckler, right? Which, I don't know, Tyler Biadasz came out of the pile with the ball. I don't know how they rewarded it to them, but whatever. But and then so you give up the fumble there. They go down and score a touchdown. So offensively, I thought they were executing just fine. You didn't see anything wrong with it. They didn't get enough chances because of the fumbles. Just think if they at least don't fumble the ball and maybe punt the ball away or something, then you're going to limit what Philadelphia is going to be able to do. So offensively, I didn't see any problems, obviously, than the mistakes. They didn't have any major penalties offensively, right? So offensively, I thought they did really well. Obviously, Jaden Daniels did Jaden Daniels things. The Terry McLaurin touchdown catch was amazing. The way that Terry McLaurin in the second half of the season just seemed to get into another gear, right? He was getting shoestring tackles all the time in the first half of the season, but in the second half, he seemed to have another gear that the defenders didn't have. That was an amazing play. Offense was fine. Offense played well enough to win, minus the fumbles.
So on this offense, Zach Ertz, 16 targets, 11 receptions, 104 yards. Terry McLaurin, 3 catches on 7 targets, 51 yards and a touchdown. De'Ami Brown, 3 catches, 42 yards. On the ground, I mentioned it was only 25 attempts.
Yeah.
6 of those were Jaden Daniels running, 11 by Brian Robinson for 36 yards, and Austin Eckler, 8 carries for 15 yards. Trev, what do you think, not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but what is more important going forward for this team? Another potent running back, like a running attack, or a second wide receiver, a second reliable receiver in this passing attack? Because Zach Ertz is up there in age. Who knows if he's going to continue, playing football or stays with this team. You've got Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, who Austin Eckler might not even come back this season after a second concussion. What is more important for Jaden Daniels going forward for him to get this help that he needs to get this team over the hump?
You need a good running game. Point blank, period. And we just experienced that in the NFC Championship game. How'd they win that game? You want to know how? 7 rushing touchdowns by quarterback and running back. No receiver had a touchdown. And they have
A.J. Brown did. Just FYI.
Did he?
They had 8
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And
they have studs at wide receivers. But they had 7 rushing touchdowns. Because why? Their running back's a stud. Okay? I understand we had high hopes coming in the season with the B-Rob and Eckler, Thunder, Lightning kind of duo. They were excited to play with each other. Let's be honest. It's B-Rob and Austin Eckler. Okay? It's not scary. It's not anything to game plan for. It's not anything to watch out for when you're playing against us. The running game for us this year was not a concern outside of Jaden Daniels. And people were like, oh, we have Jaden Daniels. Cool. But I'm not trying to send Jaden Daniels and have him leading the team in rushing every single season he's with us. He's going to get wore down. He's going to get injured more likely. And the possibility that goes up. And no. So we just saw it in the NFC Championship game. We saw it the whole year. Winning teams have good running games.
Yeah. The game has been, always will be, won at the line of scrimmage. In the trenches, as they say. The big fellas up front, the Hogs. That's why this organization celebrates the Hogs so much, because that was the identity of the team back in the late 80s and early 90s. That's where the game is won. Philadelphia is considered to have the best offensive line in football. They showed it even with third stringers in there. On the offensive line. They have excellent offensive linemen. And then I don't want to switch it to the defense yet, but you look at the other side, and Washington doesn't have the studs in the trenches to defend it. I mean, Barkley's holes that he had were huge. Jalen Hurts' holes to run were huge. That's the difference in the game. It always has been. And Washington has got to get to that point to where you can't, as Trev said, you can't rely on Jaden Daniels to lead this team in rushing week in and week out. It's okay if he does it every once in a while when he has explosive games, but you can't have what is the 2 running backs combination? So 8 and 11, 19 rushes for like 50-something yards.
That's awful, bro.
Can't win. Can't win that way. And Washington obviously proved it. And I don't know, what was Philadelphia? Like 25 rushes for 900 yards?
36 rushes for 229 yards.
Yeah, that's where the game is won. You can say all you want about A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Jalen Hurts thrown in, and they can do that. They're good at that. It's one right there in the trenches.
Yeah. So absolutely on offensive line, a lot of people are agreeing with you. SGB was one of the other ones who had agreed with you on the offensive line. Don't necessarily go to, the running back or the skill positions. Go with the big guys in there. And we do love a good big guy. So when we start doing our draft prep, expect us to be looking at that, because we could upgrade across the board there, no doubt. Gregory pointing out 55 points. What a joke. And we're going to get to the defense here in just a moment. But one of the things when it comes to why we're talking about the offense and why they can do it is because we said Washington's best defensive weapon going into this game was Jaden Daniels. If Washington can keep driving the ball, if they had Trev, a bunch of those opening drives were 7 minutes off and it was 18 plays. I mean, eventually they have to finish. They have to score a touchdown off of those. But if they kept doing that, yeah, Saquon's going to break out a big run like he did, and he scored immediately, against us. But Washington's defense, all it needs is one or two stops. A big run here or a big pass play there. But if Jaden Daniels limits the amount of touches the other team's offense is going to get, the defense is going to look better. So that's one of the reasons why we're talking about it. And Trev, today that didn't really work out, and things were a bit off. How much do you think Washington missed Sam Cosmi today?
A little bit. I mean, a lot. I mean, I didn't think that they were really wreaking havoc back there against Jaden Daniels. I mean, yes, they got back there to him. They got a couple of sacks, but I don't think it was a story of the game. You didn't really hear the announcers or anybody saying man, we're just getting to Jaden Daniels on every single play, because we've had that happen before with Sam Howell last year. So I think it's huge, but to be honest, I even left him off the injury report on Wednesday because I was just Trent Scott came in and we beat Detroit. I didn't even think about Sam Cosmi not being able to play. And it's no offense to Sam, but it's we've had so many switcheroos offensive line. I really wasn't worried too much about it because it's been doing it all year. But yeah, I think we definitely missed Sam Cosmi to a certain extent today, but I don't think it would have made that much of a difference because we beat ourselves, and it really wasn't the offensive line's fault this time. But just to piggyback on the offense, when you think about it, I'm going back to the very first drive.
Yeah.
4th and 3, that close, after converting 2 of them.
Yeah.
We choose 3. You can't score 3 points to beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs.
That was weird, wasn't it, Trev? That was weird.
I think that set the tone for the entire game because we were playing catch-up the entire game. We led 3-0 for literally 18 seconds. Yeah, I know we still kicked it off and they came down with good return, but I think that killed our drive. I think that killed our momentum. And I think that set the tone for the rest of the game because then Cliff had to go start calling different game plan probably. To be honest, I don't think Cliff called a very good game, to be honest. And it's hard to watch it on TV because you don't see downfield when the receivers after the snap, you really can't tell. But I still don't think that he called that great of a game. Zach Ertz was our leading receiver with the most yards and catches and targets.
Yeah.
Was that coverage or was that design plays? Or
it was coverage.
Just plays were just busted? It was just, and I saw somebody commented, no deep shots. None. I don't know if any were dialed up and they were just covered, but there were none. Not even a try. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
That's just weird to me because Jaden's been hitting those all year. We 2nd and 3, you call a screen on 2nd and 3 after picking up 7 on the ground, give it right back to B-Rob. That's what I'm saying. We had B-Rob as a jag running back. Sorry, I'm kind of tangent, but if you just feed him and feed him and feed him after he's getting some momentum, see what happens. We always just stop doing that after B-Rob comes in and breaks the pile and drags the pile for 7-8 yards. Then we go to a pass play, and then we're behind the sticks again. Now we're forcing Jaden Daniels to be Magic Man. So shout out to Cliff for calling a great game plan all year, but a lot of times this season it was bro, what are you doing? B-Rob just broke that for 8 yards. It's 2nd and 2, and you're calling a screen. 2nd and 3, you're calling a screen.
Yeah, 2nd and 2 is one of those times you got to take a deep shot, right? Because it's just you only got 2 yards to make it. You don't have to. To be fair, that was a similar play to the one Terry McLaurin broke out to the house. But I mean,
right. But
I do think some of this was coverage. It was Jaden Daniels was taking what that defense was going to give him. So that's why, honestly, they were forcing it to Zach Ertz. Largely because Zach Ertz, while he can catch the ball, he's not a yak machine. You saw what happened when Terry McLaurin got it. He ran wild, and they didn't want that to happen. Someone had pointed out the umbrella coverage. I think it was Brian. Yeah, Brian here. The umbrella coverage today from the Eagles. They didn't want to be beat by the top. They were like, this is going to have to be a death by 1,000 cuts. And Washington ended up not being up to the task today. And one of the things I mentioned in our group chat, Stoner, during the game was I smile anytime Philadelphia is going to bring the blitz because I just know Jaden Daniels is going to do something good. And that was true today. The problem was, as Todd points out here, Philadelphia only had to bring 4. So you didn't get to see a blitz a whole lot. And this is where it goes down to your point, Stoner, about the offensive line needing to be improved because you can't sit there and have 4 get pressure on your quarterback, no matter how good of a quarterback he is. Some talented people there on defensive line for Philadelphia to give them their kudos.
And at some point, I just kind of noticed in the game that Chris Paul was in there at right guard.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything. I wasn't following along Twitter. I don't know why.
Trent Scott was getting blown up.
Getting abused. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not surprising. He's a backup for a reason, right? But on that, a couple of points that Trev made, I kind of wanted to piggyback on. In that first drive, right? They had a 4th and 5 at Philadelphia's 43-yard line, and they went for it and got it. Then later in the drive, they had a 4th and 2 at Philadelphia's 28, and they went for it and got it. Then they had a 4th and 3 at the 16-yard line.
And you kick.
And they kicked a field goal.
And you're down the rest of the way.
I didn't understand.
That was so weird.
I know how everybody talks about points on the road or whatever. But you just went for it twice during that drive.
Thank you. And it's 4th and 3.
And it's 4th and 3. It wasn't 4th and 7 or 4th and 8. It was 4th and very manageable. And so that was very surprising to me that they kicked a field goal. But, good on them. They kicked a field goal and then turned it over to the defense. And then,
that's what I'm saying. You can't do that when you got Saquon Barkley over there. And AJ Brown and Devontae
I don't think they're going to have a chance to give up a one-play drive against Saquon Barkley. I think I think they expected their defense to play better than that, and then their offense goes out, and the offense, and this is where I definitely disagree with like the play calling that he wasn't in his bag. You sit there, you have Eckler, 1st and 10, Eckler for 4 yards. Then you have Daniels to Ertz for 5 yards. 3rd and 1, Brian Robinson left on the left for 3 yards, 1st and 10. And then De'Ami Brown fumble after a 6-yard gain there. Like Washington, to me, looked poised to go for it again. They were going to drive down the field if De'Ami Brown doesn't fumble away. But then that's when they do get in trouble, because now Philadelphia, not wasting the time here, scores another touchdown to make it 14-3. Washington, 10 plays, 46 yards, 4 minutes off the clock, but only a field goal. To your guys' point, maybe they should have gone for it, and they need 7 here, not 3. Elliott missed another field goal against us, which gives Washington a chance to actually close this down to a 2-point game. Actually had a chance to actually get closer, but it just wasn't meant to be. I tell you what, though, you know what's funny to me, guys? All week long, our Philadelphia viewers were pretty quiet, but they're chirping in the thing out here now. You can tell that they were nervous about this game, and they are only coming out. They're only coming out now because it was a victory, and it was a big victory for them as well. I just hope that if they're out here watching us, they've also hit that like button for us, and they stop saying stupid things like this. The scrolls saying JD5 choked big time. The scrolls, you must not have actually watched the game. It wasn't JD5 who did that, but we do appreciate you coming out here. Make sure that you hit that like button for us as we go through here. We have a few things from our viewers. Brent here with the super chat. FYI, I am an Eagles fan, but at least Jaden Daniels got more postseason wins than Dak.
Hey, there we go. We can all team up on the Cowboys.
You're not lying. We do appreciate you, Brent, for joining us here. Jodecki here as well. As an Eagles fan, it's going to be a headache to continue playing you all 2 times a year. You better believe it. This is not going to be the only time these 2 teams will meet in the postseason or have epic matchups in the regular season. It is a new day, and I do believe that it's going to be going forward. Philadelphia and Washington battling it out for the top of the NFC East. So we do appreciate you all coming on and jumping here. And again, Brian with or Brent, sorry, with that super chat. We do appreciate you all coming out here and joshing with us. We, unlike our Detroit counterparts, enjoy a little friendly banter. We do just ask that the trolling be limited. Keep it to good discussion, and we don't have to have a problem with that. Last point on the offense before we do to the defense. Gus was asking, were you guys annoyed that they kept sending Jaden out there when we were down by 25?
No, I was annoyed that when Marcus Mariota came in, they didn't do a damn thing but hand the ball off.
Well, that time you were down by 30.
But then you go for it on 4th and 3 when you're down by a bajillion. You go for it on 4th and 3 with a run play with Mariota. But when it's the first drive of the game, you're like, nah, let's kick for 3. Whatever. No, I wasn't mad. He's a rookie. Let him just see if maybe cut it down to 14 or 15 or 17 or 18, maybe. But no, I wasn't annoyed. I was annoyed that we were down by 25, not that Jaden was still in there.
They scored 28 in the second quarter against Detroit last week in one quarter.
And gave up 21 in the fourth quarter?
No, but I'm saying that
the defense
having Jaden in there down by 25, that's fine. Yeah. You still got a shot. Anytime Jaden Daniels is in there, you've got a shot. But at a certain point, you obviously throw in the towel. So no, I'm not mad that they were in there still trying to win the game. Absolutely not.
No, I mean, and they eventually did pull him. Marcus Mariota got in there for Washington.
That was a good time to pull him.
They flew out the white flag and they surrendered, right? But with 5, we're alive, and you saw how quickly Washington could put up points. You saw 22 points against this Philadelphia's defense. A few weeks ago when these two teams met, they put 28 points up against Detroit just last week. In one quarter, they're capable of doing that. So no, I'm not mad, but as I would say, this is where Trev, I do agree. Some of those play calls and they weren't hurrying up. They kept Jaden Daniels in there, but it was just kind of, they were like going through the motions. I was like, you guys got to keep moving and trying to score here if you're going to keep Jaden Daniels in here, because it makes no sense to play out this game with Jaden Daniels if you're already throwing up the white flag. Keep him in there if you're looking to win. And there were some reasons why I didn't necessarily think that was the case. We're going to get to Brent's other super chat here in a moment, because that's going to be a post kind of game discussion here. But let's talk about this defense here. DC Dave starting off with us. Was Hurts playing with us with the knee brace thing? He took right off. I told Stoner yesterday when we had to test his system because he had to move computers. I told him, I said, I do not buy that Jalen Hurts is as hurt as they were letting on. Now, they did have some issues with their offensive linemen. Both their starting center was injured with a back, but he ended up playing. But their backup center, who is their left guard, ended up having to leave the game because of a lower leg injury. With all that said, Trev, Washington's defense not up to the task to beat up a banged-up offensive line and a quarterback who possibly wasn't nearly as mobile. And one of the things we heard all week long, and we even parroted some of this information, was Jalen Hurts can't throw or doesn't throw much in a winning game. Here he was 20 for 28, 246 yards and a touchdown. He was sacked twice. And on the ground, he had 10 carries for 16 yards and 3 touchdowns. A lot of those on the tush push there. But this defense missing Daron Payne today, Trev, or was there more to it?
No. We couldn't stop the run when Daron Payne was there. So, it would have been nice to have him. He would have maybe affected the game a little bit, but would have been no difference of an outcome. Saquon did it when he was fully healthy. So, I missed me with that. Our defensive backs are playing 10 yards off the ball. It makes Jalen Hurts' passing game easy. It's pitch and catch out there. We didn't make him have any difficult throws. We didn't bat any passes down at the line of scrimmage. We forced him out of the pocket, but he just threw him away. Other than that, he was just doing the same thing Jaden Daniels was doing. We gave him a cushion. The guys were wide open. Just toss and catch at this point. We didn't make it difficult for him.
Yeah, defensively, it was rough. right? When you needed the defense to step up and make a play, they couldn't do it. They didn't turn them over at all, right? Didn't force any turnovers.
Mhm.
So you lost the turnover battle like 16-0. Was it 4-0? Felt like 16-0. So you didn't force any. Just think, what the defense has to step up when De'Ami Brown turns the ball over, when you got some momentum going, and he turns the ball over, the defense has got to step up and get a stop there.
Yeah, they don't.
And they don't. And they go right down the field. Next thing you know, it's 14-3. You're like, whoa, what just happened? The defense never gave you the impression that they could. Now, look, again, that is a good Philadelphia. That's a great Philadelphia offense. And you got to give Jalen Hurts his due. As Nathan talked about, normally when they win a game, it's because he's not throwing the ball. But Jalen Hurts did really well throwing the ball, throwing it downfield, and again, exposing the holes and the warts that this defense has, which is many. We love our guys. We wish they could all stay and develop into great players, but they can't, and they're not. So there's going to be a lot of changes defensively. They were not a good defensive unit. They were average at best when they couldn't stop the run. And they just could not stop Philadelphia. Philadelphia had what? One punt? Did they have 2 punts?
There's 2 punts. I was actually just looking this up. So they scored on 8 of 10 drives. I'm not going to count the end of the halves.
Oh my God.
So they had a missed field goal.
Yeah.
A 3-and-out and a 7-out. So at 8, sorry, maybe I did miscount there. So let's see.
2 punts.
Someone keep your fingers up here. Touchdown, touchdown, missed field goal, touchdown, touchdown, punt, touchdown, punt, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
11.
Yeah, and again, not counting those 2 end of the halves in there. So
I mean, defensively, just a horrific effort all the way around. I mean, obviously, you look at 55 points. Now, the offense didn't help, giving them the ball 4 times. Right. But again, when you got to make a stop, it's not like they were getting the ball every time in plus territory. They were getting the ball at the other end and going all the way down the field. Or they would get the ball at the 40. One play, Saquon's in for a 60-yard touchdown. So, again, you got to give them a lot of credit, but at some point the defense has got to step up and make a stop.
Yeah, man.
And they just couldn't do it. They got to force a turnover, and they couldn't do it. So that's what was so disappointing. I think that's probably the most disappointing part in this entire game. The turnovers are obviously there, but defensively, they just couldn't stop anything about Philadelphia and got exposed Big Ten.
I'm gonna do a little self-love here with EP in the chat with a super chat and a nice little joke here. Pork chop, my son, bum smells like the Commanders today. She was just messaging me. She had to change the little one's diaper, and I guess it was a doozy there. So, but yeah, the Commanders not playing well today here, losing 55-23. We appreciate EP jumping in the chat here, taking care of the kiddos while I do this. So we appreciate EP. We appreciate everybody jumping in the chat. Make sure you hit that like button as you always do, and make sure you're sharing it. Everybody can come in here and have a good conversation. Great Watubi. This is the worst roster we're going to put on the field, and but there's some good players that we've had this year, Watubi, that just failed to live up to it. Bobby Wagner didn't have his best game. He got tripped up on the Saquon Barkley. Maybe didn't take the best angle. He was taking a good angle, but Fowler ended up tripping him up. Fowler was a good acquisition for us all season. Didn't have his best game. Dorrance Armstrong with the sack against Hurts, but in the end, we didn't have a great roster. Good times coming ahead with that, so we'll have to talk about that in our Wednesday show. So make sure you hit us up on 7:30 Eastern on Wednesday for that one, and that's where I answer Brent's discussion as well. Brent, we appreciate you again for the $5 super chat. Do you think the Commanders are going wide receiver and lineman in the first round? Honestly, we haven't even looked.
I haven't even started that.
I haven't even started looking. So, Brent, we won't be able to answer, but this offseason, we're going to have some great content for you. So we appreciate you with this. Let's get back into the game before we get to Mike's super chat. Brian, I thought we were going to blitz a lot more than we did. Angry face palm emoji. Joe Witt Jr.'s game plan, Trev. Did you said you didn't like Cliff Kingsbury's. What did you feel about Joe Witz Jr.'s defense?
Yeah, blitz more, but if we blitz more, who else is there left to defend? We don't have anybody that can. Our defense is not good enough to where we keep blitzing all the time that it affects the other team's production or offense or play. And that's just the way we were built this year. Our secondary is atrocious, man. Like, we've had some good plays by the secondary this year, but our secondary as a whole is really, really bad. So if you send the house and the quarterback does get the ball off, who's going to be back there to defend? We don't have the people to do that. So Joe Witt is really trying to call the game plan that best fits these guys, which I'm not making excuses, but yeah, you had an all-off season, but just one season, and these were all different faces. You haven't been with these guys for 2-3 years in a row. This is your first year playing with a lot of these guys. And we see what happens throughout the year with that. For example, Emmanuel Forbes, gone. Jamin Davis, gone. We traded Sweat and Young before they got here, but the owners were here, so gone. So he was just trying to do what he could, the best he could with what he had. And yeah, it would have been nice if we blitzed more, but it's the Philadelphia Eagles. If you sell out to stop them with Saquon, who's going to be back there to defend the Goddards and the Devontae Smiths and the A.J. Browns? So it's hard to do when you have the roster makeup of what we had this year. Yeah,
and I think,
but
I think to be fair also that they did blitz a fair amount. Yeah. I don't have the number, but Saquon Barkley was doing a great job of stepping up and taking that blitzer.
Couple times taking out Wagner or Luvu in that.
Yeah,
I mean, he held on one of them, but whatever.
but he was able. Jalen Hurts was able to throw in rhythm most of the game, and if he can just do that, if he can throw in rhythm, then again, Devontae is going to be open. AJ Brown's going to be open. Dallas Goedert's going to be open if he's in rhythm. I mean, most wide receivers are going to be open. That's how the game works. Most wide receivers are open if the quarterback has time to sit back there and do it. And when they were picking up the blitz, then they couldn't stop any of those rhythm passes. And so I don't know if maybe they needed to blitz more. I mean, obviously you can take a look at a defense that gives up 55 points and say you can pick that game plan apart.
Yeah.
So we'll have to kind of see it as we go along, but I don't know necessarily that they needed to blitz more. I think that those guys who were on that line needed to get home more. And
that part I agree is because I did feel like we blitzed an okay amount. Maybe we could have blitzed a little bit more, but the problem is you weren't getting home. You got to Jalen Hurts twice, and a couple other times when you're dragging at his feet, he was able to get the ball away. And, that's the problem we've seen with this defensive unit a lot this year, right? People were talking about how, they weren't that good, but I kept pointing out, well, they're pressuring, but they're just not getting home. And it's like, those pressures will add up and they'll matter, but the sacks are an improvement, and they weren't getting those today. The pressures were not enough. Marshawn Lattimore, once again, not having that great of a game. Trev, are you worried about Lattimore going into next season, or do you think that maybe with an off season recoups that hamstring and kind of gets back into the Lattimore is the reason why we traded a 3rd round pick for?
Yeah, I want to give it time. He came here, he barely played for us because of the hamstring injury. And I want to give him a whole off season learning Joe Witt's defense. I mean, he's Marshawn Lattimore. He's not a slouch cornerback. He just had a rough few games for us. And there was a couple of times where he had a pretty decent game. But I'm not giving up on Marshawn Lattimore. It's just it is what it is. He's our best corner we have, literally just by stats alone. So.
And I'm not recommending, Brian, that we get rid of him, for the record. We got to keep Lattimore. Can't waste a 3rd. I'm just saying, as far as the play of Marshawn Lattimore, Lattimore's play when he's been targeted, I'll say, because there's been a couple of games where they just didn't even go his way,
right?
Which looks great when you're just like, okay, well, he scared them away from that side of the field.
Yeah.
However, when teams have gone after him, they've been successful. And today was no different. It was absolutely one of those things. And as Doug mentions here, Lattimore needs to put all these personal rivalries out of his mind.
Yeah.
He just has that kind of mindset. He did get penalized today for getting his helmet ripped off by AJ Brown.
Yeah.
So I mean, it happens. I think that was a makeup call for the previous Eagles game where you have CJ getting his helmet removed by Diami, and he gets a penalty. So it was a little makeup call there for Lattimore on that one. But it is going to be one of those things to watch. And Gregory saying Lattimore has an attitude problem. I will say,
I like it.
I don't think it's a problem. It doesn't necessarily fit with the rest of the team, but I think that's the mentality that the defense needs to have, is to play angry and get there. So it's one of those things where we'll see what happens. I've said all season long, second best or second most important position in football is a person get after the quarterback. Washington unable to get after Hurts today. Hurts, by the way, for those Eagles fans who are trolling us in the chat, definitely not better than Jaden Daniels. If you want to, congrats on your victory today, but believe me when I say you're going to regret facing Jaden Daniels 2 times a year. Okay. You guys are making me go from, these Eagles fans are making me go from kind of wallowing in the loss and this end of the season to saying F you, like our coach said, and realizing Washington is on a good path. And we have had several people say that, like Mike here. I'm very proud of this team. The Eagles are huge up front, so we need to bolster our lines. Absolutely. Mike, say it with that
I just still feel like we could have easily won this game.
I think to do that, we needed to play sound football.
Yeah,
I did tell you guys that, and that at halftime said they are up by 14 or they're up by 12. They've scored 14 points off of turnovers.
Right.
And to me that says Washington, if they didn't beat themselves, would have been in this game. But
that's what I'm saying.
The problem that we've seen is that they've done that time and time again, where they beat themselves. Even in the game against Eagles, where they won with 5 turnovers.
Yeah, we should have won more. We probably would have won.
Not have been close. That game should not have been that close. Shouldn't have needed the Jaden Daniels heroics to Jameson Crowder at the end. But it's hard to overcome a number 1 defense when you cough up the ball 4 times. It's just it's a difficult thing to do. Today, I'm glad that we're not worried about those referees. There were some strange calls, some calls that maybe didn't go our way. But as Silver Fox points out here, what's up with the refs warning us about defending the goal line or they award the team to score? So it is actually a rule in the rule book that the refs can award a score if a team is deliberately causing a foul to a penalty to kind of delay the game. Essentially. And after repeated times of Luvu jumping over the top and then Johnny Newton jumping off sides, they were like, hey, you guys keep doing this. We're going to do this. Now, here's the thing with that particular call, guys. Luvu, the first time, okay, whatever, you mistimed it. The second time, you can tell Philadelphia was trying to get him to do it again, and he did. Okay. Then with the referee saying, hey, if it happens again, we're going to do a 15-yard penalty, not a 5-yard penalty. And they're next to the goal line, so it's a matter of whether or not they're going to award a first down, right? Rather than have it.
Well, no, it's a matter of getting somebody unsportsmanlike, and if you get 2 unsportsmanlike, then you get thrown out.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what they were going to give him.
And then so Johnny Newton does it, and that's where he comes and they're like, hey, we can award a score. And that triggered Philadelphia to say, well, we're just going to keep trying to get them to do this then, because why not get the free points instead? But they end up punching it in regardless there. So unfortunate. And it was a tough loss. Captain Obvious, living up to your name there with that tough loss comment here. But we do appreciate the super chat. Looking forward to owning the NFC East. There are good times ahead for Washington. And we're going to be talking a lot about those on Wednesday. So make sure that you join us Wednesday here at 7:30 on YouTube and Facebook. Make sure you hit that like button right now. Last thing, defense sucked. Moving on, special teams. One of the things that I noticed early on was how, and Stoner, you said Luke McCaffrey was going to be an X factor today. Well, he ended up being an X factor in the sense that Philadelphia did not kick the ball his way. They did not want to see Luke McCaffrey touch it. And I gave it to McNichols several times there. And McNichols was the one who ended up losing the fumble. McCaffrey did end up having 2 kickoff returns for 49 yards. So again, continuing to be good there, but it was Jeremy McNichols who had the one for 17 yards and a fumble.
Yeah.
Tressway, great pass to our man Ben Sinnott, showing up in the final game of the season to finally have something in the playbook for him. What did you guys make of the special teams before we move on to our go-goes and no-goes?
I'm trying to figure out why this light all of a sudden came on in my
Yeah, it did. And now it's off again.
And I have no idea. There's no lights coming on or anything. I don't know what happened there. But special teams, I thought they were fine. I mean, the Zane Gonzalez went 2 for 2 on his kicks when you absolutely had to have them, right? And they did have a couple of decent returns though, and then you had the McNichols fumble. So I don't know. Special teams, as they are in most games, to me, they were just kind of there and didn't really make an impact either way to me.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, we can move past the special teams. There wasn't anything.
I just thought that it was interesting that they didn't want Washington to return it, and then they deliberately were trying to kick it to McNichols' side, which ended up working out for them.
Well, when McCaffrey bobbled the opening kick,
I was like, "Oh, here we go."
I was like, "Oh, that's an omen."
And I'm really, 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 really shocked that we ran that fake punt. Did not see it coming.
I actually called it. Now I can't prove that, right? Because I didn't have a camera on me or anything. But I saw the way that Jeremy Reeves was kind of looking over the defense and barking out signs, and they had 2 guys covering the gunner on one side and one on the other, and they just didn't look ready for it. And I was like, "Oh man, this will be a great time for a fake." And then he faked it. I was like, "Oh, I wish I had a camera on me," but it was really nice execution as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he threw a really nice pass. They weren't expecting it. They didn't cover it like they were supposed to old Ben Sinnott. And I forgot he was even on the team, but we'll get to that in the off season, talking about the rookies. But you know what? Overall, though, I know how you guys are feeling. I know how most fans are feeling. It's weird because I'm usually the Debbie Downer. I'm not as mad as everybody else seems to be, or as sad. And maybe also because I saw it coming. I woke up and I didn't tell Trev this because I know Trev would get mad or whatever, but I told Nathan I saw it coming. My prediction was actually 41-12 Philadelphia. And I said, I don't want to tell Trev, but this is not going to go well today. And I just kind of saw it coming. So maybe again, that's that whole expectation thing, right? That I was kind of expecting a beatdown. And so I'm not as mad, but I'm just not as mad because we played way over our head this entire second half of the season into the playoffs. And it was just so much fun. Yes, I would like to keep on going, but it was just so much fun to ride this wave into the NFC Championship game. And it sucks that it had to come to that, but I had a blast this season. The best season of my fandom in my entire lifetime as a fan of this team. So I just can't be too mad because there were no expectations. This was a recalibration year. We didn't expect any of this. We didn't expect a 32-year-old tight end to have basically a career year and a almost 30-year-old running back do what he did, and a 34-year-old linebacker lead the team in tackles and play as well as he did. We didn't expect all of these things. And as much as we liked Jaden Daniels coming out of the draft, we didn't expect him to be Superman. And now we've got Superman. So I'm almost
the best quarterback in the NFC.
The best quarterback in the NFC, no doubt. And I'm almost ready to start looking forward to next year and all the possibilities. I'm ready to go. The offseason is going to be awesome. Two main points that we had when we started this show almost exactly 4 years ago. When we started the show was two things. First, no matter what, you got to get a quarterback. So we finally, after 4 years, have got one. And number two, all you can ask for is hope. And we have hope now. And I hate, again, that it's not hope that we'll win the Super Bowl, but it's hope going forward that this team is going to compete every single year because we got our quarterback. I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm not as mad as you guys, apparently. I'm already over it. I'm already over. If they had lost 24-23 because Zane Gonzalez missed a field goal, then there probably would have been broken televisions or broken lamps in my house.
I'm not sorry for being mad because I am mad, but I will thank all of the trash talking Eagles fans who kept quiet because they didn't want to mess up, who came in and now they're trash talking. I've only had to hide one. I don't mind them coming in chirping, but spam and complete trolling jobs are going to, you can move on with that kind of mess there. But I appreciate our fans who are in here as well. Make sure you hit that like button here. Ramon had a great question. We're going to save this one, Ramon, for Wednesday. Okay. So Stoner is taking this down with his notebook. We're going to talk about this. But Ramon is asking, do any of you agree with the following players have played their last game in a Washington uniform? Allen, Payne, Robinson. Maybe he just gets relegated to second string, Ramon says. St. Juice, Lattimore, if we can trade him. Wiley. That is a great question. We'll be talking lots of off-season comments when it comes to our rest of our flagship programs between now and next season. Washington's season ended today, 55-23, but future is bright and skills is wrong. No more flying under the radar now for now, commies. The Eagles just gave the NFL blueprint on how to stop JD5. If the blueprint is cause fumbles by JD5's teammates, then you guys did a great job at that. Yeah, keep the ball out of JD5's hands was the blueprint, apparently, because JD5 did exactly what he needed to against this number one defense. It was the rest of the team who decided not to show up. So, in my humble opinion, let's move on to our no-goes and go-goes. This age-old tradition here on Ref the District after the game to name our players who are no-goes and go-goes. Now, a reminder, Don't Sleep Player of the Game is coming up, so let's hear it. And if either of you pick a Philadelphia player for any of this, I swear to goodness, you're getting booted and you're getting muted, so do not do that to me. Let's go ahead and hear it. Who's your no-go for the game, Trev?
I'm going to go with, obviously, the defense, but I'm going to pick out a few people on that defense that kind of played uncharacteristic. Jeremy Chin, awful game. Quan Martin, no show. Lattimore, too busy chirping. Bad penalty at a bad time. Penalties that happen. Noah Igbegni just disappearing. Sainer still getting burnt by a giant receiver in A.J. Brown, which I love Sainer still to death, but we need to address the cornerback position. He needs to go back inside. Thank you for playing outside this year because you had to. But I'm cool with you being on the inside because I'm not going to be cool with you getting dogged on the outside almost all year long because of your size. No offense. So Bobby Wagner as well, just kind of slower today. The only lightning in the bottle that we had on defense was Frankie Louvu, literally.
Yeah,
no. Jonathan Allen had an okay game. Carl Davis had a tackle. There was no edge appearance at all outside Dorrance Armstrong when you had Dante Fowler with double-digit sacks all year and Clean Farrell with a little bit of whatever, but where were they at today? So pretty much the whole defense. You allowed 55 points to the Philadelphia Eagles, and you allowed 7 rushing touchdowns to 2 people on the offensive side of the ball. The whole defense as a whole, pretty much, but the ones I named specifically, because they played uncharacteristic today.
That's fair. I mean, when you give up 55 points in a game, you obviously have to look at the defense. But I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit, and I like all of those guys that you mentioned, Trev. I'm going to go with Diami, and because of that fumble on the first time he caught the ball.
Yes.
And how it affected the way the game was flowing. Right? So you're down 7-3, you got the ball, and you're going to start heading down there. and then you turn the ball over like that. Such a massive, massive play in the course of this game. So I'll give it to Diami. That's another name that we need to put on that list of guys we have to talk about whether they're going to be back next year. He's an unrestricted free agent. His 4 years are up, so we'll see. But, man, that was bad. That one fumble right there. And the Eckler one in the second half was just as egregious. But, man, Diami kind of set the tone that, hey, we're just going to go out there and we're going to throw up all over ourselves and give the ball away. And, yeah, that sucks. So I'm going with Diami Brown as my no-go.
Yeah, lots of people in agreement with the defensive side of the one here. Drew is probably my favorite one here. Drew's no-go is Eagles fans for not vibing in their own chat. You have the opportunity to talk good stuff with your own team, but you're over here. And if you're over here, you might as well hit that like button for us. You guys took both no-goes. Diami was going to be mine, Stoner, so you took that one from me because it was more than a momentum killer. It was a game changer. Washington, from that point, even though they clawed back into it, just could not overcome these turnovers. So I'm going to give it collectively to Diami, to McNichols, to Eckler for those fumbles, because those really stopped the momentum every single time. Even Brian agreeing with me here. The defense was atrocious. You can't give up 55 points. But when you're gifted 4 turnovers, 3 real fumbles, and then a late interception from Jaden Daniels, Philadelphia did not waste those opportunities this time. And Washington, they could have prevented that. They could have done better if they didn't give up the ball. Let's move to the go-go's because we like to finish on something positive. So let's talk about our go-go's for the game. Starter, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it's hard to give a defensive player a go-go when you give up 55 points, but Frankie Louvu was flying all over the place. He was giving it everything he had. He was blitzing and making sacks, and he was going after guys on the outside. He was giving it all that he had. So I'm going to give it to Frankie Louvu just because I love what he brings to this team, the intensity and the energy, all of that. So I'm going to go with Frankie Louvu.
Trev?
I'm going to go Zach Ertz. I mean, outside of the obvious Jaden Daniels. Zach Ertz, 10-plus catches, over 100 yards, no touchdowns, but an aging Zach Ertz has been one of the best weapons for JD5 in his first year as an NFL quarterback. Shout out to him. Probably had his best career, I think, season here in Washington or something like that, pretty close to it. So, yeah, Zach Ertz. We thought you were aging. You still are. You showed it at times, but also at times you surprised us and really, really a crucial, important part of the offense. So Zach Ertz is my go-go.
Yeah, all good choices there. Zach Ertz with a fantastic day. I am going to give it to a guy who probably deserved more today than what he did. 3 catches, 51 yards, and a touchdown, and kind of given us some hope there in the first half. That's going to be Terry McLaurin. This is a guy who I think this offense really appreciates, and when he gets going, good things get going with him as well. And it seemed like with that huge run after the catch that he had, that Washington was going to climb back into it. And unfortunately, like I said, things ended up not going that way thanks to some turnovers, but that touchdown was special. And that did again make it 14-12. And it felt like Washington was going to come back into it. So he's going to be Terry McLaurin's going to be my go-go. JG with Tress Way, 1 for 1.
Hey man.
First down. Absolutely. Yeah. Boomer. From my man,
nope,
Tress
you're not
Way.
Getting anybody answering.
Yeah,
nobody's going to say sooner.
That's all right. Maybe I get one sooner in the chat. I know we have a couple our Oklahoma people here as well. Let's move on to our don't sleep player of the game. Probably wins this one as much as he wins the Rookie of the Year, Pepsi Rookie of the Week award. But mine, of course, is just going to be Jaden Daniels. Fantastic game for the young QB in his first of what we hope are many NFC Championship games. 29 for 48, 255 yards, a touchdown. Did have 1 interception there, sacked 3 times, but played his heart out, 6 carries, 48 yards, and an amazing touchdown run on the ground as well. My don't sleep player of the game, Stoner.
Yeah, it's a good choice. I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit just so that I can get in a little talk about something a little different. So my don't sleep energy player of the game is going to be Josh Harris. I just want to shout out Josh Harris for purchasing the team. Josh Harris and his fellow ownership group, not just him, obviously, but he's the main guy, for hiring Adam Peters, who hired Dan Quinn, who drafted Jaden Daniels, and who's reinvigorated our fandom all over the place and has allowed us to be excited about going into this offseason, more excited than we've ever been as fans. And so thank you, Josh Harris, and all the players. I'm just going to give it to the entire organization for an awesome season this season.
Trev?
Player of the game, huh? Zach Ertz.
Ooh, got the go and the player of the game.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Love him.
yeah,
Him.
I do love him. I didn't like him in Philly, but I like him here. We kind of hyped about him when we first signed him, but then was like, wait a minute, he's aging, isn't he? But he was tremendous all year. Healthy for the most part, healthier than I thought he was going to be all year because he was battling a couple of knee injuries the past few years of his career. So Zach Ertz, player of the game. But since Stoner went for the season, I'm going to have to go with, the entire organization as a whole.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I will save my don't sleep player or person of the season for our Wednesday show. We do stream live every Wednesday, 7:30 Eastern on YouTube and Facebook. Make sure you hit that like button if you've enjoyed the show so far. We've got a few things to go, but first, I got to tell you who Don't Sleep is. Don't Sleep Energy is a fantastic local DC company, a DMV company. You can support them and us by going over to their site, don'tsleepenergy.com, using the code DISTRICT. Get yourself 10% off your entire order. They sell energy drinks of regular variety, of sugar-free variety. They've got your energy shots, and they've got some fantastic gear as well. They're good people. Help them out by going over to don'tsleepenergy.com. Use our code DISTRICT to help yourself out by saving 10% off your entire order. Don't Sleep Energy. It makes you great. Like I said, I'll be sharing that one on Wednesday when it comes to that show. I'm going to share this right now for Mike. $5 super chat. We appreciate you, Mike. Why does Cliff call that run up the middle for 2 yards all year long? It's because sometimes it's an 8-yard run. Sometimes that was a 10-yard run.
Yeah.
When it was a 2-yard run, we hate it. We love it when it was a 10-yard run. And the problem is there were some inconsistencies with the play calling, but all year long, the offense was rolling. Even today, putting up 23 points against a number 1 defense. Just ask yourself what Washington averaged the last 2 years over the course of a season. Yeah. And we would have beat it with the 23 yards we did today, or 23 points we did today against a number 1 defense.
Yeah, man.
While turning the ball over 4 times.
Yeah. I got a couple of things for you. And again, to kind of give you a little bit of good feeling on the way out, heading into the off season. The players who are going to be back, especially the important players, the guys like obviously Jaden and Terry and guys like Frankie Louvu on the other side, right? This is going to fuel them. This is going to fuel their offseason big time. Imagine how motivated they're going to be thinking that they got their ass kicked to Philadelphia, a division rival in the NFC Championship. So that's something good that can come out of this terrible loss to the Eagles. But another thing is, I was thinking about this earlier today, is that what Washington just did this season and the success that they had this season? They just changed the entire NFL. They changed the way every organization and every owner looks at what it takes to build a football team, to build an organization, right? Because we hear it from everywhere. I need 2 to 3 years to build this team. Ron Rivera said it takes 3 to 4 years to establish a culture, right? The guys think just about in your own division. What's that donk in New York? Brian Daboll and Joe Shane. They're sitting there. They're telling their owner, we need 3 or 4 years. We need to build this roster, and we need to develop a quarterback like Daniel Jones. No, you don't. Look at what Washington just did. They did it all in 1 year. And so there's no more excuses. So you're going to see shorter leashes on all these coaches all around the league. Everybody, almost every organization right now, except for the 2 who make it to the Super Bowl, those coaches and those GMs, they're on the hot seat today. Even the ones that just got hired. Because Washington said, you don't need years of building and developing a roster. You can do it in one off season. Now you got to get the right guys, but now everyone's going to look to Washington as the standard of what it takes to build an organization in one off season. And as somebody said earlier, and maybe even put it up here as well, that the way this roster is built now is the worst it's ever going to be. And that's what we have to look forward to this offseason. It's not terrible. So get used to it. Everyone else is on notice. And I think you're going to see a lot more coaches fired quicker because of what Washington did. We are now the standard. We are now the model organization that everybody's going to look towards. And how awesome is that we get to do that here
until Shador Sanders comes out next year and has a better rookie season than Jaden Daniels, and we're like, oh.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Probably not.
You're going to expect it. Owners are going to expect that. They're going to expect that you draft a quarterback and you go from 4 wins to 14 wins in an NFC Championship.
Yeah.
And if you don't, well, then you're gone because Washington did it.
Yeah.
With a rookie GM, second-time head coach, and a rookie quarterback.
No one expected Jaden Daniels to be what he was. No one expected a rookie to surpass what C.J. Stroud did last year. And now the bar has been set even higher. I love this comment here from Scooby, who I appreciate staying up with us this late over there across the pond. We exceeded our own expectations.
Yeah.
Only Trev had them winning 12 games this year, and even he admitted to that was kind of lofty goals.
Hey, I know what I'm doing.
Scooby says, and we're disappointed. When was the last time the Skins did that to you, right? We exceeded expectations. We still leave the season disappointed with how it ended, and it did end in an embarrassing fashion, 55-23 loss to division rivals Eagles with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But next season will be a new story, and we'll get you there. Just make sure you follow us here on Ref the District. Subscribe to our channel. We stream live every Wednesday where you can join the conversation at 7:30 Eastern. We appreciate everybody jumping in here. Make sure you hit that like button before you head the way out. We'll see you on Wednesday. I'm Nathan. That's the Stoner. That's Trev. And until next time,
it only gets better from here, y'all.
Be a fan.